The most powerful criminal empire in American history wasn't brought down by murders, bootlegging, or rival gangs, but by a team of accountants armed with tax forms. Al Capone's story shows how even the mightiest can fall to the most mundane details.
That's fascinating how such a notorious figure was ultimately undone by paperwork. His operation was generating what would be $1.5 billion annually in today's money. Yet he couldn't be bothered to file his taxes.
Well, let's dive into how this Brooklyn-born son of Italian immigrants built such an enormous criminal enterprise. By age 26, he controlled Chicago's largest criminal organization, and his path there is actually a masterclass in organizational development. Just, with more violence.
Though that violence was calculated, wasn't it? There's that chilling witness account of him using a baseball bat in that backroom interrogation.
And what's striking is how he combined that brutality with genuine business acumen. He identified market opportunities during Prohibition, built sophisticated distribution networks, and even handled public relations by opening soup kitchens during the Depression.
So in many ways, he was operating like a modern CEO, just with extremely different enforcement methods. Son of a gun.
Exactly. And his networking skills were extraordinary. By some estimates, half of Chicago's police force was on his payroll. Those who couldn't be bought faced a simple choice: cooperate or die.
Like what happened to Police Sergeant William Hartnett. His family home was bombed just for refusing Capone's money. That's quite the aggressive retention strategy. I can imagine how angry they will be.
You know what's really interesting about Capone's operation? He built specialized roles into his organization: enforcers, accountants, distributors, political fixers. It was essentially a Fortune 500 company operating in the shadows.
Though his management style was unique. There's that account of him laughing and joking with someone at dinner, then ordering their execution in the same breath.
Right. And that unpredictability was part of his power. He could be absolutely charming one moment, then terrifyingly violent the next. But his real genius was in understanding how to use public violence strategically.
How do you mean?
Well, he knew that one public, gruesome example could control hundreds through fear. Take the St. Valentine's Day massacre. 7 men lined up against a garage wall, executed with Thompson submachine guns. The brutality was shocking, even by Chicago standards.
That really marked a turning point in public opinion, didn't it? Blood literally flowing under the door and into the street. That was terrible.
And that's where Capone's strengths became his weaknesses. His charisma fed an insatiable ego. His confidence became hubris. He started believing his own mythology, that he was untouchable.
Well, that's what makes his downfall so ironic, all that sophisticated criminal enterprise. And he gets taken down by tax evasion.
Though he tried to handle that the same way he handled everything else, attempting to bribe the jury with what would be over $1 million today. But the judge outsmarted him by switching juries at the last moment. Sucker.
For the first time, his money and intimidation failed him. And then came Alcatraz.
And that's where the story takes an almost Shakespearean turn. The mighty crime boss, his mind deteriorating from neurosyphilis, reduced to sobbing in his cell, terrified of shadows on the wall.
That prison guard's account is haunting. The man who once controlled Chicago couldn't even remember his own birthday.
And you know what's really relevant about this story today? It's a perfect case study in how unchecked strengths become fatal weaknesses. His charisma built his network, but fed his ego. His strategic mind built his empire, but blinded him to systematic threats.
So what are the key lessons for modern leaders?
First, sustainable success requires legitimate foundations. No matter how brilliant the structure, an illegal foundation cannot endure. Second, blind spots are fatal. Capone prepared for threats he understood, but was blindsided by federal tax law.
And there's something deeply unsettling about how close he came to getting away with it all. A man responsible for dozens of murders was only caught on a technicality.
That's the real horror of Capone's story. Not just what he did, but how the system that should have stopped him earlier only caught him through a legal loophole. It raises serious questions about power, accountability, and the systems we build to contain both.
So in the end, his legacy isn't inspirational, it's cautionary.
Exactly. Talent without ethics becomes a weapon without a safety catch. Ambition without boundaries becomes a vehicle without brakes. And success isn't measured in dollars or power, but in sustainability and legacy. Something Capone learned far too late.